Thanks, George, and good morning to everyone on the line. So spring is finally here, or pretty close, and along with the warmer weather, we know that it also ushers in conversations about fly prevention and control in our restaurants. We do receive quite a few comments and feedback from the field and restaurants, and we need your help. Today, I'm going to go through some of the myths about fly prevention control in our restaurants, and these are based on actual feedback and comments that we've heard from the field, and we need your help to bust or confirm these myths. Let's get started. Myth number 1, everywhere I go has flies. It's not that big of a deal. Well, that myth is getting busted. Flies are gross, and that's exactly what we hear from our guests. When they land on food and surfaces, they contaminate them with their legs and mouth parts. This can contribute to the spread of diseases like Salmonella and E. coli, making food unsafe. For this reason, having flies in your restaurant could result in a critical infraction on a health inspection. And as you just heard from Ginta, the focus is on providing an outstanding guest experience. But even if our guests are greeted by a guest experience leader and given the absolute best experience possible, if they sit down at their table and have to swat flies off their food, it will impact their overall experience and the likelihood that they come back. Flies irritate and disgust our guests and crew, and we can't be complacent about them. Here's myth number 2. Pest control providers take care of everything for the restaurants. This myth is busted. Service providers will do inspections and give recommendations to help you keep flies out of the restaurant. But it is the crew and the managers that need to keep flies out. This means keeping the doors and drive-through windows closed when they're not being used to stop the flies from coming in. Did you know that air curtains can be used at the drive-through windows all year long? They should even be used at night when it cools down to help keep flies from getting in. Not only do open back doors let flies in, it is a serious crew safety risk that should never be allowed. Doors should be closed when crew take out the garbage to keep flies out and maintain the safety and security of the restaurant. Pest providers can also do exterior treatments or put up exterior fly lights like the Ecolab Stealth Fly Stations to reduce the pest pressure from the outside. But the best way to reduce fly pressure is to keep the outside of the building clean. This means cleaning the dumpsters and the corral area so that the flies aren't attracted to the restaurant in the first place. The more flies that are eliminated on the outside, the fewer we have to deal with on the inside. Finally, pest providers can do interior treatments, but it's the restaurant team's responsibility to make sure there are no sources of food, water, or areas where flies will breed. Here's another one. The fly lights just don't work. Are you surprised that this myth is also busted? Fly lights are very effective, but there needs to be enough of them in the restaurant. The McCopco standard for our trads is a minimum of 3, 2 in the back of house and 1 in the dining area. Pest control providers should be able to recommend the appropriate number to have based on the restaurant size and configuration. They also need to be in the right places. If they're too high, too low, or they're hidden behind the SSBS, they won't attract flies. Have you heard the myth that they only work at night when it's dark? This isn't true, but they work the best when they're in a spot that doesn't have a competing light source. If you can't see the light shining onto the wall, then it's being washed out by the sun or the building lights, and it won't be as effective. Consult with your pest control provider on the best places for the lights, and don't be constrained by electrical outlets. Bring in an electrician to bring power to these spots. And of course, don't expect the fly lights to work if they aren't plugged in and turned on. Some providers also offer gold sticks to help battle flies. They should be used only if the health department approves them, only in non-food areas, and never within our guest view. There are targeted spot treatments where a chemical is applied to common fly resting areas to quickly knock down adult flies. It's offered by our preferred provider, Ecolab. We have to follow laws on how often it can be applied and plan for a short temporary closure of the restaurant, usually during an overnight on a quiet night of the week. but the closure time is worth it since these treatments are very effective as long as new flies are not allowed into the restaurant. Regardless of a restaurant's pest provider, any restaurant can opt into the Ecolab Fly program only while maintaining service with their other provider. There's an info sheet on McWeb if you want more information. And remember, a licensed technician is the only person who's allowed to apply pesticides. Store-bought sprays and chemicals like conch aren't allowed under any circumstances. Here's myth number 4. Insecticides and pesticides are the only way to get rid of fruit flies. This myth is 100% busted. Fruit flies are all about sanitation. They breed where food material and standing water mix, such as soiled floors or beverage drains, damaged tiles and grout in the back sink or the mop sink area. If you notice these flies in a restaurant, look for where they're gathering. If you have a clean restaurant, you generally won't see fruit flies, but even the smallest amount of debris, even in an area like a bakery cabinet, can allow them to quickly multiply, so thorough sanitation is key. And the last myth, number 5. Everyone has a role to play in preventing and controlling flies. This myth is confirmed. At the end of the day, we need to provide quality food and an outstanding guest experience. That means that everyone from maintenance crew to overnight cleaners, managers, and yourselves, the supervisors and business consultants, all have a role to play. And here's your role. Review this presentation with your managers and teams. Observe these myths in your restaurants and bust them. Share what you know about keeping flies out and away from the restaurant, keeping the inside and outside of the restaurant clean so that flies aren't attracted to the restaurant, and share the other elements of a successful and effective pest control treatment and prevention program that you heard about today. Your teams may be doing a lot of these things already, but if you need more support, talk to your provider about the solutions that they provide. And visit McWeb, where you'll find the large fly prevention and control toolbox, including a comprehensive checklist. If I can leave you with 2 things to remember from this presentation, number 1 is that a successful fly prevention program is a combination of keeping them away from the restaurant, keeping them out, and keeping it clean so that they don't get inside or multiply inside. Fly lights, gold sticks, and treatments are reactive steps that need to be used appropriately for the biggest impact. And number 2, the most important thing is that the back doors and the drive-through windows need to be closed when they aren't being used. No flies mean we can focus on offering a great guest experience. We want to invite our guests back to the restaurants again and again, but not the flies. Thank you, and I'll pass it back to George.